Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are taking a deep dive into, well, frankly, an extraordinary set of sources. A really profound, sometimes jarring conversation.
Yet it involves two figures from completely opposite ends of the spectrum, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We're digging into the mechanics of hate, the psychology behind extremism, and the really tough process of de-radicalization, how it can actually work.
And our main focus is the dialogue and the work surrounding Daryl Davis. He's the black musician known for, befriending and converting hundreds of members from hate groups.
Hundreds. It's kind of staggering.
And on the other side, Jeff Schoep, he spent, 27 years in the movement and was the leader, the commander of the National Socialist Movement for most of that time.
The NSM, yeah. The contrast is just stark. You've got Davis using curiosity, basic kindness for decades to dismantle hate.
While Schoep spent the same years building up one of the biggest neo-Nazi groups in the U.S.
So the mission for us, and really for you listening, is trying to figure out, how does basic humanity break through that kind of rigid ideology?
And what makes someone join in the first place? What are the psychological hooks?
And maybe even more importantly, what makes them leave? What's that tipping point?
It really gets into how changeable human beliefs can be. We probably have to start with Davis, though, his approach. It just turns the usual ideas about confrontation on their head.
Totally agree. And the results speak for themselves. I mean, the numbers. He stopped counting converts from groups like the KKK after more than 200.
200 people who handed over their robes and hoods. It started, as you said, from simple curiosity. His question was basically, how can you hate me? You don't even know me.
Right, and that led him to actually meet a Klansman.
Yeah, and the Klansman was apparently just floored. Here's this incredibly talented black musician playing Jerry Lee Lewis tunes.
That personal connection, that unexpected shared interest, it was powerful.
Powerful enough that the guy eventually quit the Klan and physically gave Davis his robe.
And I think what's key about Davis's method, his whole methodology, is that he wasn't setting out to force people out. He wasn't trying to win an argument.
No, it was more subtle, more about getting them to just rethink things. He'd offer perspectives they literally hadn't encountered before, using relational dialogue, not, political debate.
And that relational thing, it has ripples, right? A multiplier effect.
Exactly. Davis talked about how even the really hardcore haters, the ones who wouldn't talk to him at first, they'd see their friends leave the movement.
They'd watch their buddies' lives actually get better after leaving.
Yeah, and that planted a seed. They started thinking, maybe this hate thing isn't worth it. Because, as Davis put it, hate is exhausting. The cost becomes clear.
He even boiled this down to a kind of framework, didn't he? Based on his travels and seeing different cultures. 5 core values.
5 things basically every human wants. To be loved, to be respected.
To be heard.
Right, to be treated fairly, truthfully,
Yeah.
and crucially, to want all those same things for their family.
That's such a profound insight, because if you get that, you see how extremist groups work. They often prey on a lack of those things.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They promise belonging. That's the love part. They promise purpose or status respect. They offer simple answers for why things feel unfair.
So Davis wasn't fighting the need. He was just offering the real version instead of the counterfeit one provided by hate groups.
Which brings us to the other side of this. Jeff Schoep and the ideology he lived in for so long, leader of the National Socialist Movement, the NSM, for 25 years.
And just to be crystal clear for everyone listening, when we say National Socialist Movement, we're talking neo-Nazi, rigid anti-Semitic ideology, not the kind of socialism you hear debated on campuses. Totally different thing.
Right. And Schoep's own history is, well, it's revealing. It started really young. 4th grade.
4th grade. Wow.
Yeah, but interestingly, he says he wasn't actually raised to hate. The initial pull came from his grandfather, who fought in Hitler's army. He just thought the history was cool back then. A misguided search for, maybe, significance?
Well,
legacy?
Not malice initially.
Yeah.
But that fascination eventually led to this really strange conflict later on. He was apparently a long-haired rock and roll singer.
Yeah. Who was actively looking for Nazi groups to join. He called it like jumbo shrimp. A total contradiction.
So how does someone maintain that? A rock and roll Nazi? Psychologically, that's fascinating.
Well, you find your bubble, your echo chamber.
Yeah.
And you commit hard to the ideology, the performance of it. He found the NSM when he was 18.
And how did he even find them back then? This was pre-internet, right?
Yeah, totally different era. He literally wrote physical letters, found addresses in the back of some sociology book about extremist groups in the library.
Dedication. A deliberate search for that specific kind of belonging.
And once he was in, the indoctrination kicked in fully. He learned the racism, the anti-Semitism, required reading lists.
Like Mein Kampf, obviously.
Yeah, and Henry Ford's The International Jew.
Yeah.
Which is, a reminder of how deep some of this stuff goes historically. Ford supported the Nazis.
It's chilling. And the group itself, the NSM, it wasn't just casual meetings, it was structured.
Very. Paramilitary structure. Regular meetings, rallies, some public, some private. Strict vetting, NDAs, background checks. It was designed to be an all-encompassing world, cutting off outside perspectives.
A structure built to prevent questioning. Okay, so then comes the moment it starts to crack. The meeting.
Right. Chris's Hot Dogs in Alabama. They were filming the documentary Accidental Courtesy.
Yeah.
And Schoep apparently had no clue he was about to meet Daryl Davis.
The guy known for pulling people out of groups like his.
Exactly. Talk about a collision course.
So what happened? They sit down.
And they start talking. Small talk first, then music. And they actually bonded over it. Schoep described this immediate internal crisis, like, wait, I'm getting along with this guy. He's supposed to be the enemy.
Wow. That basic human connection immediately threatened the entire ideological house of cards.
So his defense mechanism kicked in. He literally pounded his fist on the table, declared something like, I will fight to the last bullet for my people.
Trying to shore up the hate, push back the connection.
Yeah, it wasn't really about Davis in that moment. It was an internal battle. Trying to stick to the script when faced with someone who is just a cool guy, unexpectedly.
And Davis's response was crucial, right? This is where his strategy really played out.
Absolutely key. Davis didn't yell back. He didn't escalate. Schoep said later that was just bizarre, because in 99.9% of the time, yelling gets yelling in return.
But Davis stayed calm.
Totally calm, which apparently just made Schoep more curious. The defensiveness started to drop because the expected confrontation didn't happen. Davis wasn't attacking his reality.
He was offering something else. Vulnerability.
Exactly. Davis started sharing his own experiences with racism. Real personal stories, like having rocks thrown at him when he was just 10 years old.
Moving it from abstract ideology to concrete human pain.
Right. And for Schoep, that was a turning point. He said he realized, okay, this isn't some noble cause. Not if it's causing that kind of pain to a real person sitting across from me. The cost suddenly felt real.
And you see the impact of this kind of change ripple outwards. There's that story about Duke Schneider, right? Schoep's former chief of security.
Oh, yeah. Powerful story. Duke left the movement, got seriously ill later on. His nurse, Catherine, who was African-American, just refused to leave his side. Showed him incredible care and compassion.
Despite his past.
Completely. And Duke realized all that hate he'd carried was just meaningless compared to that genuine human connection. He recovered, and he married her.
It's just undeniable proof, isn't it? That connection can overcome learned hate.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But for Schoep himself, getting out wasn't a clean break. It was messy. He called it a backward journey. He was starting to de-radicalize while still leading the organization. That must have been incredibly difficult.
Trying to change it from the inside.
Yeah, he spent years trying to rebrand the NSM, make it seem like a white civil rights group. He even tried, publicly, to get rid of the swastika symbol.
Did it work?
No. The group eventually just switched back to the old symbols after he left. But the attempt shows his internal struggle.
And the personal cost. It wasn't just ideological. Hate has real-world consequences. You mentioned he was doxxed young.
Yeah, at 19.
Yeah.
And it had a devastating impact on his mother's career. She was apparently on track to become a judge, and his exposure basically tanked her chances. He carried immense guilt over that.
Losing his own humanity and damaging his family, it shows how destructive it is on every level.
But then, after he finally left, after he publicly denounced it all, there's this incredible irony.
The acceptance part?
Yeah. Guess who showed him the most immediate acceptance?
The Jewish community, the very people he'd spent decades demonizing.
Exactly. He said he received more hugs and more love and compassion from them than from almost anywhere else. People he'd never even interacted with before, beyond his hateful rhetoric.
That just says so much about forgiveness and the potential for change.
It really does. He also mentioned a Muslim filmmaker, Dia Khan. She reached him not by arguing ideology, but by explaining how his hate made her feel as a child less than, ugly, not worthy.
Again, focusing on the human impact.
Right. He realized that dehumanizing others ultimately dehumanizes yourself.
So when he finally went public with his denouncement, August or September 2019, what happened within the movement?
Oh, he was immediately branded a traitor, total outcast. But significantly, hundreds of others followed him out. The NSM apparently shrunk quite a bit after that.
And now he works against extremism.
Yeah. With groups like the Simon Wiesenthal Center, complete turnaround.
It's an incredible arc. But we should probably also touch on what's driving this kind of extremism now. What's the fuel?
A lot of it comes down to fear, specifically demographic fear. The U.S. Census prediction that white Americans will become a demographic minority sometime between 2045 and 2050, that's huge recruitment fuel.
So they twist that demographic shift into white replacement theory.
Exactly. Frame it as an existential threat. Within the groups, you hear terms like RAHOA that stand for racial holy war.
Or the boogaloo.
Yeah, another code word for a kind of anticipated civil war or societal collapse they think is coming.
And they use current events to recruit, manipulate the media cycle.
Absolutely. Groups like the NSM are strategic. They'll go to places where there's conflict, protests, riots, specifically to get footage.
Footage of what?
Of them clashing with counter-protesters or police. They then spin that footage internally, claiming they're being attacked by ZOOG, the Zionist-occupied government. It feeds the narrative that they're under siege, which helps recruit people who feel alienated or angry.
It's a deliberate media trap. And there's also a focus on recruiting military folks, right?
A very focused effort, especially veterans and those with less than 2 years of service. They want the skills, weapons training, survival tactics.
Stockpiling skills and resources for this imagined race war.
That's the idea. It's grim stuff.
But coming back to the core lesson here, from both Davis and Schoep, it seems to be about learned behavior.
That's the hopeful part, isn't it? The KKK road, the swastika armband. Those are things people put on. They learn that hate, that ideology.
It's not like a tiger's stripes or a leopard spots. It's not inherent.
Exactly. And what is learned can eventually be unlearned. It takes work, it takes connection, but it's possible.
So for you listening, maybe you feel overwhelmed by this level of hate. Maybe you want to help but think, I can't talk to a neo-Nazi. Davis had advice for that, didn't he?
He did. Very practical. He said, you don't have to be on the front line if that's not right for you. Find your place.
The back line, sideline, or online.
Right. Support the groups doing de-radicalization work. Educate people in your own circles, online or offline. Speak up against casual prejudice in your community.
Every role matters. No one line is more important than another.
The goal, as he puts it, is just being pro-human.
So what does this all mean, I guess? It means that these incredibly destructive ideologies, they're often built on things we can actually address. Learned fear, the need to belong. It's not always about inherent evil.
And the way through isn't necessarily to fight someone's reality tooth and nail. It might be more effective to offer a different perception, a better one that connects with those core human values we talked about. Give them space to see a different path for themselves.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Jeff Schoep, a guy steeped in anti-Semitism, finding the most immediate compassion from the Jewish community. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's the real power of extending that kind of radical forgiveness, even when someone's past seems completely unforgivable? Something to think about.